us to start the service? Thanks, sir. Yes. Amen. Amen. And just want to remind you about the services Sunday. Be here for all that. And Sunday school is 9:30, church 10:30, and just kind of I think Sunday's going to be pretty much a kind of a normal kind of day. Got a few things going on the week after that. Some things that we'll talk about later. And then tonight we're going to do our prayer time just a little bit different. I'm going to take the guys and we're going to go in the lobby. We're going to leave the ladies in here. And I want to pray a few different ways over the course of the next month or so, and different groups, and just to kind of spark some things there, I hope, with that. So if you would turn to page 322, hymn 322, 302, Jesus is all the world to me, 322. Jesus is the word. I'm having trouble tonight. Let's go circle back around. Let's try to start again. Jesus is all the world to me, my life, my joy, my all. He is my strength from day to day. Without him I would fall. When I am sad, to him I go. No other one can cheer me so. When I am sad, he makes me glad. He's my friend. That fourth verse. Jesus is all the world to me. I want no better friend. I trust him now. I'll trust him when life's fleeting day shall end. Beautiful life with such a friend. Beautiful life that has no end. Eternal life, eternal joy. He's my friend. Okay, I want to read part. We got a letter from the Webbers, and that's our missionaries in Australia. And we're Paul, Rachel, Anna, and Sarah, two of the kids that are still there. Says that for the past couple of months that Paul's been preaching through a series in the book of 1 Timothy, and he has been preaching. One of the studies had something to do with hospitality, and they said we've always thought, sure, we've had all kinds of people in our homes throughout our many years of ministry. We must be doing a good job with that. But the command here actually goes beyond mere entertainment to a deeper expression of love and care. The phrase can be translated loving the stranger, and it's the concept of being generous and actively welcoming to those that are strangers and those that are in need, and has to do with kindness, love, and care, and oftentimes open up your home to your home and resources. And it says that on the 6th of the month, whatever, I think in August, they said we had Sally and her family over for a meal. And through our conversations, we found out that they had been homeless for the past few months, living in a rundown trailer because no one seemed to want to rent to them. And we tried to be an encouragement to them, praying for them, and even discussing what we could do ourselves to help them. A few days later, we rejoiced to find out that they had finally found a place to live. And then a few weeks ago, we also found out that a young couple in our church had they were expecting their first child in December. They're losing their home temporarily, need a place to stay for a while, so that we have an extra bedroom. So we invited them to come and stay with us, and they moved in on the 18th. And so kind of putting that hospitality thing into action. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but there is a chance of they've been praying about starting a church in a certain area there in Australia, and that door closed. But there is another opportunity in a place called Geelong, and it's the Melbourne area, and a lot of growth there. And there's a church near there that wants to plant another church. And so Brother Paul may be able to help with that. And so they're praying, and some of the pastors in the area are going to try to work together. And so there's a meeting coming up in November. They're going to take a 2-weekend visit there and kind of get the lay of the land. So let's really pray that the Webbers, it'd be exciting to see them be able to help plant another church in Australia. They've been part of that all their years there, so they know what they're doing. So we'll pray for the Webbers here in just a moment after the message. But let's open our Bibles. We're going to go to the book of Job, and we're moving to chapter 2. And in a sense, it's more of the same, yet it is a little different too. He is, and his family, it's as if they are under assault, and we understand the fuller part of the story. We know more than he does at this time, and they are under assault, and Satan is attacking and doing damage to his life, and Satan has accused him before the Lord. And so these successive waves come in chapter 1. He loses. In those waves, he loses all of his livestock. All of his wealth is gone. Everything that they would depend upon. I would maybe something akin to this is that maybe you've worked for a company all your years, and they put your pension in a certain stock, and that stock goes belly up, and you've lost everything. You could sense the dread that comes with that kind of thing. So the loss of livestock, and then the loss of servants. His workforce is gone. And then the last one, while he is yet speaking, he runs up and begins to tell about how his children are all killed, all 10 of them, the 7 sons and 3 daughters. And I can't imagine the wind that would be taken out of your sail. It'd be a very desperate situation. And He says this in verse 21 of chapter 1. He says, "Naked came I out of my mother's womb, and naked shall I return thither. The Lord gave, and the Lord hath taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." It says, "In all this Job sinned not, nor charged God foolishly." It is easier to read that than to live that. It is much hard living if you're going to really put this into effect. The realization that, I didn't bring anything out. I'm not taking anything out. And, kind of the joke, the preacher joke, is you don't see any hearses pulling U-Hauls to the cemetery. I've heard some strange stories about things that are buried with people, or people have been buried in their car even, just odd things like that. But we understand that they're not taking that with them. That's staying there. And so, but he's blessed the name of the Lord. It is a lot to bless the name of the Lord in the midst of great difficulty, and he's done it. And so we're going to begin this in chapter 2. And this is, I had the sense that this is all very connected in the sense of timing. We don't know how much time has passed, but I feel that it's not like years. This is coupled together in such a way. So in chapter 2, verse number 1, it says, "Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan came also among them to present himself before the Lord. And the Lord said unto Satan, From whence comest thou? And Satan answered the Lord and said, From going to and fro in the earth, and from walking up and down in it. And the Lord said unto Satan, Hast thou considered my servant Job, that there's none like him in the earth, a perfect and upright man, one that feareth God and escheweth evil, and still he holdeth fast his integrity. Although thou movest me, against him to destroy him without cause. And Satan answered the Lord and said, Skin for skin, yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. But put forth thine hand now, and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. And the Lord said unto Satan, Behold, he is in thine hand, but save his life. And so this is something very familiar to us. It sounds in some ways very reminiscent of chapter 1. But before we move very far into this, I want you to remember chapter 1. Satan had said in verse number 9, he says, Doth Job fear God for naught? And there is, first of all, Satan is accusing Job that Job is only serving God for what he gets from God. And so it's like if God somehow cut him off, that you quit being Santa Claus with Job. He's not going to serve you. And it talks about Satan in Revelation chapter 12, verse number 10. It talks about how he is the accuser of our brethren. And so that's one of his main, seems like a main function that he is doing. He is accusing. He's accusing. Hey, they don't have faith. They're just in it for what they can get out of it. And so Satan was accusing Job. But I think there's also this, is that Satan was accusing God. There's a sneer in this against God. And you say, what is the sneer? What is the accusation against God? And it is this, I think, that God's not worthy to be followed. Hey, if you're not giving away stuff to your children, they're not going to follow you just because of who you are. But we know that's not the truth. That oftentimes Christian people do follow God just because of who he is. That is a higher level of Christian living. Not just the blessings that we get, but because of how blessed he is. And so you want to follow the Lord, let's follow along with that. And so you get to chapter 2, verse number 1, and we're seeing kind of almost a repeat of chapter 1. There is this presentation that is taking place in verse number 1, where the sons of God come to present themselves before the Lord. And then Satan also appears, and he is on a clock also. He is on a chain. Although he is a wild animal of a sorts, God has placed limitations on him. There are things that he cannot do, and there's things that he must do. And so he comes, he presents himself to the Lord, and the Lord asks him the question about, where you been? What have you been doing? He said, going to and fro and up and down in the earth. And so there is that presentation again before the Lord. And there's never in my mind any doubt about this, that Satan knows that God is God. He wants to lift himself up, but he does know his place there. He's been thrown out of heaven before. And it says in verse number 3, it goes from this presentation back to this consideration again. God gives his consideration or his evaluation of Job here in verse number 4. He said, Hast thou considered my servant Job? And so that's a great thing to be a servant of the Lord, to be part of his workforce, to labor for him, to belong to him, and us to belong to him, and him to belong to us. And he says that there's none like him in the earth. Look, he is a special work here, it seems like. And God gives him these things that he says about him, these 4 things, that he's perfect, he's a mature believer, he's complete in his life, he is upright, he's a stand-up Christian man, there's straightness in his character, he's not bent, he's not crooked, he's a man that's a God-fearing man. He wants to not bring any kind of reproach into his walk, and he's a man that escheweth evil. He shuns evil. He turns away from things. He moves out of the way. He makes sure that he stays out of its path. And God says to Satan again, he says, have you considered him? Have you looked at this guy? And then he adds this in verse number 3, I'm sorry. It says, and he still holdeth fast his integrity, although you've moved me against him. He said, you've brought all these successive waves of destruction into his life, and you thought he was going to fold up. You thought he was going to collapse under the weight of all the pain and the agony. he said, but he still has his integrity. What do you think about him? What do you think about that? And so that consideration is there in the face of the destruction. And he says, without cause. I had no cause against him to let you do this, but I've let you do it. And so there is the presentation, there is the consideration, and then here is another accusation again in verses 4 and 5. And Satan says, skin for skin. Yea, all that a man hath will he give for his life. There's something inside of us that we have a instinct to live, don't we? It seems to be like one of the last things to let go. I've been at people's bedside as they passed, and loved ones are telling the one that's near death, it's okay, go on, let go, I'll be all right, we'll take care of things. And so it's something that is innate in us to live. I think that's something God put in us. But he's saying he's going to do anything to keep his health. He's going to do anything to keep from being ill. He's willing to curse you even. It says, but in verse 5, put forth thine hand now and touch his bone and his flesh, and he will curse thee to thy face. Oh my. You know, you may know this, that your bones, what do your bones produce? Calcium? Blood. Your bones are the machine, the mechanism that produces the blood in your body. Without blood, you're not going to live. Matter of fact, it says in Scripture that the life is in the blood. And so he says, you let me touch his skin. You let me touch his flesh. You let me touch his bone. And so this is a structural thing. It holds me up, you know. But it's also the thing that's producing the life in me. He said, you let me touch that, and he will curse you to your face. And so what he's saying here is that his piety, his holiness, his walk with God, it is mercenary. Mercenaries are soldiers that are paid to fight. They don't fight for their country so much. They're paid to fight in another country. And so he's saying that this is that God's people will keep walking with God as long as you keep paying them. You keep paying them. You give them health. You give them a good way to go. They'll love you. But you take that away, they're going to curse you. And God says, I know my servant better than you do. And so there is an allowance made in verse number 6. The Lord said to Satan, behold, he is in thine hand. Man, I read that, and I think about that. He is in thine hand. And then I think about the fact that it says, Satan, behold, he is in thy hand. To think that God allowed Job to be in the hand of Satan. That'd be a scary thing, wouldn't it? To be in the hand of Satan. But God gives allowance, but he also puts a limitation on it. He said, but save his life. He said you could touch anything about his body, but you can't take his life. Look, there's a big difference between you putting yourself in the hand of Satan and God allowing it to happen. And so there are limitations around that. Satan has a limited reach. There's only so far he's going to be able to go. You have to save his life. You can't take his life. And so verse number 7 starts another paragraph here, but it says, so when Satan went forth from the presence of the Lord and, same sentence, and smote Job, it's as if God gives him release. He says, you can go do it. He's in your hand. Do what you're going to do. And it's almost like as soon as he left, that's what he went and did. It's like, man, he went straight to it. He did not waste any time. He didn't fret around about what to do. I think he already had a plan worked out in his head that what he was going to do here. And so he is on the move. There is like a continuation of this successive, like a siege that he is caused in the life of Job, and this immediate nature, there's an immediate nature to the move of this. I want to keep on the heels of this. I want to keep the pressure up. I want to keep pounding him and pounding him and pounding. I don't want to let up. I just wanted to keep coming at him. And so he left the presence of the Lord. He struck Job, it says, with sore boils from the sole of his foot unto his crown. And so this successive nature of these attacks, Satan was determined to do something. We talked a little bit about this last week, about just the boom, 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 again and again. It would be an overwhelming thing. It'd be difficult to catch his breath. It's like if you're in the pool with some of your friends, you're kind of roughhousing, and somebody pushes your head under, and you come back up, and immediately they push your head back under. You barely have time to get a breath, and you barely had a breath, and you come fight till you get back to the surface, and somebody clowning around, they push you down again, and they push you down. It's just, after a while, it's very frightening. It'd be difficult to be under control, and so I think that's what he's trying to do. He's trying to overwhelm him and not give him any time to even breathe or to catch his breath. I think it's also this. The successive nature of this is that he wants to support this illusion that God has abandoned him. Has God abandoned Job? No, not at all. But it may feel like that because of this is like waves coming in, and what the accusation here to Job that Satan's trying to manufacture is that God's not watching you, and God doesn't care about you. He doesn't care what's going on in your life. And so that'd be a very easy thing to happen. And you deal with people that have had great tragedy come to their life, a married couple, the loss of a child, on and on, the different things that could happen, the loss of mobility, the loss of freedom, and you get to a place where you think, is God really concerned about this at all? It seems as if all these tragic things are happening to me, and there doesn't seem to be a lot of God in that. And so it's also this, he's trying to break all the supports at once. He's trying to break it down in a way that it'll collapse. And so, if you have a lot of weight on your deck at your house, and you went under there and started knocking out the joists, the things that are holding up your deck, at some point it's going to collapse. And what he's trying to get happen in his life is for Job's life to collapse. Another thing with all these things coming at one time, he's trying to multiply the confusion by placing suffering after suffering after suffering after suffering. And so if you're dealing with somebody, if you meet somebody that is maybe dealing with some kind of chronic illness, or dealing with somebody that's had tragic situations like one right after another, don't be real surprised if they're not like super clear-headed. Don't be surprised if they're a little frazzled on the end. Don't be surprised if they say some things that don't quite connect. There's a confusion that can come in the midst of turmoil. And so we want to hold people up. We want to help them not to lose control. And so there's immediate nature to the attack, and there's the intent of his move is to bring as much pain and as much discomfort at one time to bear. And so he's used this thing, the boils. Now look at this, how he brought it. I don't know that it came up one at a time, one place. It seems as if it all comes at one time, doesn't it? It says from the sole of his foot unto his crown. What is his crown? Top of his head. So it's saying that literally from the very bottom of him all the way to the top of him, these boils have attacked. And it doesn't say just that it's boils. It uses that word sore, sore boils. I mean, it intensifies the nature of these boils. And it's as if Satan did this in a way that there is no escape from it. There is not a good side to lay on. There's not one good place to sit on. And so it would be uncomfortable in every position. Every place would hurt. And so that's a very deliberate, specific attack that Satan brought. And then the intensity of this move we talked about, from the sole of his feet to the top of his head. It talks about in Deuteronomy about these kinds of things. A plague. He said, the Lord will smite thee with the blotch of Egypt, with emerods, and with scab, and with the itch, whereof thou canst not be healed. You know, I'm glad that we live in an era where we have the medicine that we have. I'm glad that I can go to the drugstore, and there are things that you can buy over the counter that can bring some relief for most common things that we're facing. But there wasn't a drugstore that he's going to turn to. There's not some kind of medicine that he's going to find that's going to help in this. And so I had a list I saw, and I got it down about what he suffered, and it correlates through the book of Job. There's different things that he says that he's suffering with these boils. Intense pain. It says in Job 30, verse 17, my bones are pierced in me in the night season, and my sinews take no rest. He says this in Job 30:30, my skin is blackened to me, and so his skin is probably peeling and darkened. He says in Job 7, he said, my flesh is clothed with worms and clods of dust. My skin is broken and become loathsome. The writer said that I was reading, said that probably his body pus-filled and erupting in sores. He anorexic and emaciated. He says in Job 19, my bone cleaveth to my skin and to my flesh. And you know, if you've seen somebody who's been sick over a long period of time and they've lost a lot of weight, it's like their skin is just hanging on the frame of their body. He says, I've got fever. He said in Job 30:30, my bones are burned with heat. Depression, you know, a mental state. He says, I loathe it. I would not live always. Let me alone, for my days are vanity. Job 16:16, he said, my face is foul with weeping. There's weeping that's going on. There's sleeplessness. He says in Job 7:4, and when I lie down, I say, when shall I arise and the night be gone? Nightmares in Job 7:14 says, then thou scarest me with dreams and terrifiest me through visions. Putrid breath, he says, my breath is strange to my wife. Job 9, difficulty breathing. Job 16, failing vision. Job 19, rotting teeth. Job 2, haggard look. Job 2, painful soul and sores all over his body. Job 2, intense itching. In Job 29, this condition lasted for months, it seems like. You know, one of those things, if you ever had a high fever, or you couldn't eat, or you couldn't sleep, one of those things is difficult in and of itself. But when you begin to lay like layers and layers upon that, I mean, no wonder he's in great difficulty. Now look, seasons of like clustered troubles feel unbearable to us. They feel like they're more than we can bear. I want you to know they're not random. It's not a random thing that's happening to you when that happens. There's something, no doubt, probably some kind of spiritual battle going on there. And so it says in 1 Corinthians 10:13, it says, there hath no temptation taken you, but such is common to man. The word temptation, we could also insert the word trials or troubles or difficulties, but God is faithful, who will not suffer you to be tempted or tried or pressed above that you're able, but will with that temptation or trial or difficulty or pressure or tension, he'll make a way to escape that you may be able to bear it. And I like to read that verse, and I get to the part about escaping. I think I can get out from under it. But it says there also, it goes on to say, to escape it and then to bear, to be able to bear it. And so there are times that we have some things that we can't get away from. There's some people facing things that they're going to face maybe for the rest of their life. That's a sore trial, wouldn't you say? They'll say, I'll never get away from this. But God is faithful. He's able to give strength day by day. And you look, God can give strength moment by moment even. And so may God help us to see the hand of the Lord at work in this also. If he hadn't had enough, he's going to face another difficulty here. He's lost livestock. He's lost his servants. He's lost the ability to put food on the table. He has lost family, 10 of them at one time. He's lost servants. He's lost his health. I mean, it's really come now. And then it comes to this. It says that he took him a potsherd to scrape himself withal, and he sat down among the ashes. He's in a pitiful place. He's taken something to deal with those sores and no doubt the itch that has come with that. And then as he's sitting there in the ashes, verse 9 comes up. Verse 9 says this, then said his wife unto him, dost thou still retain thine integrity? Curse God and die. You know, there's a renunciation that she's calling him to. She's saying, quit trying to hang on to this, your religion, this walk with a God that's treated you so poorly. She says, just curse him, just die, quit this life. Now, part of my first response is to be very harsh with her for not being a good comforter to him. But she's lost 10 children. She's lost their wealth and their livelihood. She's lost the workforce. She, in a real sense, is watching her husband being drained away of life, watching him ebb away. She doesn't know what we know, that he's going to get better. She doesn't know that. She doesn't know that God's going to give him back again what he's taken away. She doesn't know that. And so there is this inner life that maybe as she's given up hope, she says, out of maybe just hurt for her husband even, just let go of this. Let this die. Let it end. Quit. I'm tired of, I hate to see you suffer. And so she's abandoned her integrity. She's lost a lot. And so Job is punched again. And somebody that could have been a great comfort to him is not a comfort to him. It's like another prick that's come along the way. And I got to tell you, if there is a cup of despair that he had, I got to say it's pretty full. He's got a lot going on there. And so what is oftentimes and can be a great joy in life, his marriage, his walk with his wife through this world, they're alienated. I mean, she's told him to curse God and die. He responds in verse number 10. It says, but he said unto her, thou speakest as one of the foolish women speaketh. And so that thought is, you've lost all discernment. You're not speaking right. And so there is this, no doubt, this wall that's come up. And you see that oftentimes with people that are struggling in a great way. When there's constant tension, when there's great anxiety going on there, you really got to work really, really hard to keep things right with the people around you. If you're sick, boy, it's hard. It's hard to do that. When you're tired, it's hard to do that. And so Satan likes to bring strife into homes. He likes to bring strife into every relationship there is. He'd like you to fight with your spouse. He'd like you to fight with your kids. He'd like you to fight with your parents. He'd like you to fight with me. And we don't want that. You don't want that. And so, so they've come not only in the most difficult place in their lives separately, but they also come to the most difficult place in their life together in their marriage. I think it's really a difficult place. He says, "What shall we receive good at the hand of God, and shall we not receive evil?" He said, God's given us, and how can we expect not to receive some bad things in life too? It says this, "In all this did not Job sin with his lips. He still remained somehow without accusing God." And so we're at a place here where he and his wife are probably estranged. Matter of fact, you won't see her the rest of the book. I think maybe last week I mentioned this. He's given children again, and I have to think, because it doesn't say anything about another wife, that it is her that is the mother of these children. So I think there is a coming together. There is a I'm trying to think of what word I would use there. A reconciliation of that. Thank you. And really that life, that marriage life comes back into that. So I have to think there is hope here for her also. But, if Satan can bring envy there, it says in James 3, verse number 16, it says, "For where envying and strife is, there is confusion and every evil work." Now look, you don't want confusion between you and God. You don't want confusion between the closest people in your life. We don't want confusion in this place between the pastor and the people and with each other. We don't want confusion. If Satan can drop a bomb in that and create strife, that is what he's trying to do. And so, it's one thing for there to be strife out there, outside of your home, but definitely we want to keep it right inside our home. We want to keep it right inside our church, right inside our personal life. And so we're at a good place to stop. The friends show up, and God uses this term for them, these three friends. I think they are friends. They get it wrong in places. Their attitude is not quite what it ought to be at times. And Job gets a little snarky with them back. What do we say about Job? Of Job? The patience of Job. Job seems to be patient with God, but there's times, though, he seems to be impatient with his friends. Matter of fact, he said, "You are most of all the worst of comforters." I haven't got the strict thing down. He said, "You are the worst comforters. You came to be a comfort. You're like the worst comforters." And so there's some dig back that he gives. And and at the end of all of it, he prays for them. And I think they probably end as friends, but it gets tense throughout this thing. We're going to introduce those friends next week. There's 3 cycles of talks between these men and Job. It comes in cycles. And if you can learn the cycle and what each of these men are like, it'll really, I think, open the book up to you. Where Job is maybe difficult to understand, I think you can learn it and understand it a little better if you understand these men and the pace or the cycle of the book. And so we're going to get there and hopefully understand that better. So anyway, let's go into our prayer time. Yes, ma'am.
You may have covered this also. Who are the sons of God that come with Satan?
I think those are angels there.
Fallen angels? Or?
I think those are probably fallen angels. I don't know that it has to be fallen angels. But Perry, any thought on that? Did you hear the question?